We raced in Austria this weekend. Red Bull was dominant. Some teams might be back, and the black and white flags were flying. It is episode 110 of the Eaton Asphalt podcast. I don't think it's in vogue anymore to stay within the track limits. Your thoughts?
I still need to do a deeper dive at why Austria of all tracks this is like incapable of drivers to do so, because this is just unheard of.
40, I think it was 43 times that lap times got deleted. And that was, I think, before the race. So Alex Albon was talking about it, and he was like, hey, I get, we're supposed to be the best drivers in the world, and we can't keep it within the track limits, but it's windy sometimes, and like other times I'm like, dude, it's always windy. There's always
yeah. No, I'll raise your 43. There were over 1,200 reports of track limit violations that have reached the FIA's recording systems.
Yeah, too many. Way too many.
You need three different teams on that just to capture the reporting.
One of the things that they were saying too, Alex, was like, he was like, and it took so long. Like, you'd get outside track limits and they'd come back like 10, 15 laps later. It's like, yeah, well, that's because they had 18 other drivers that were doing the same thing that they had to keep organized.
There's only so many people that they can start telling the teams, being like, hey, on to the next one. Exactly. Yeah, so you guys kind of like fell into the back of the queue, and that queue just got really big.
Yeah. But hey, we got stuff to talk about. It was a at least very entertaining Friday and Saturday. Sunday was just fun because of all the, like we were saying, the track limitation stuff. But let's get into it. We got our sectors, our good, bad, and ugly, our gambling paddock, our race recap, and our race predictions recap. Let's jump right into it with our good, bad, and ugly. All right, Marco, I went last time. I'll let you go first with this good, bad, and ugly. You go ahead.
All right. My good, because I know what your good is going to be. My good is going to be Ferrari. So, it's just, at least for this week, it looked like the quickest car in the grid, minus Red Bull, of course. I think everything that I say about cars and teams is just albeit Red Bull. They're off the table. So, quickest car in the grid this week. Congrats to Ferrari. This will change a lot. I understand. I'm not getting my hopes up between these three teams, but it was the first time in a long time, probably since maybe the beginning of this year or the first time this year, where they beat up both Mercedes and Aston Martin on the same weekend. So just pretty positive vibes for Ferrari this week. Strategy, we'll talk about it obviously, but interesting strategies the last 2 weeks, but they just keep playing out well, so you can't complain.
Yeah, I got nervous at the end there. Yeah. Pretty nervous, but good thing.
Yeah. All right, my bad is going to be Nick de Vries. So it seems like the past couple of years, rookies just have not had too good of like a success. Very little success in these recent years. Poor Nick, obviously one of these guys. Logan is one of these guys. But not only is it hard enough to be tied for last with a fellow rookie, but in there about a third of the way through the season, but you also have to deal with Helmut Marko on top of everything else. I think he has just been on top of him, saying about like how poor he's been doing, and like they're going to start like looking at the other options. So I think he's just going to have to have a decent showing in the British Grand Prix, and then like really hope that Danny Ricciardo, because he's actually going to actually do some test driving next week in Great Britain, that he's kind of still on that island time, enjoying his time off and like not fully back yet. So I think things really need to start picking up for old Nick, or we will not be seeing him in his seat next year.
Yeah, unfortunate, but once you get Helmut Marko saying your name, you know you're in trouble. And he has been saying Nick de Vries a lot.
Yeah. All right, my ugly is, this isn't actually about the race, and we should probably wait until next podcast to talk about this, but my ugly is going to be McLaren. because they have unveiled their special livery for the British Grand Prix. And if you thought that their current livery had too much going on, layer in just a like really, really shiny coat of silver to cleanse that palette, because no one has ever looked at that car, like any car in general, and just been like, I just love the way how much shit is on that car, just the more shit, the better. I love all the different crazy different colors. I love all the different advertisements that are way different colors, and then just throw on this very, very shiny chrome. I don't know if this is an ode to Google Chrome. They have enough Google stuff on them. And I also thought that they were saying like this was kind of like a throwback to the 06, 08 McLaren cars. In no way does that look like the old McLaren cars at all. So I just thought that I saw that come out today. Hated them.
Right, dude. Ferrari have one good weekend, and all of a sudden you just turn on me in McLaren.
Dude, I've not liked that McLaren car even from the beginning. And then they're just going to add on this bright little layer and think it's going to get better. It's too much shit. There's too much shit on that car.
Fair enough. I mean, totally disagree, but fair enough.
Is that right?
My good, I'll talk about it. My good is going to be McLaren, more specifically Lando, but we're going to let Oscar sneak on in here so that he feels like a winner too. Season best P4 for Lando, driver of the day. Got some help with the penalties that we had because of the track limitation stuff. I think he got bumped up. I think it was from 5 to 4. But credit where credit's due. Walking away with 12 points from the weekend could have been 13 if he would have gotten. I think it was one place outside of the points for the sprint race. He was battling Carlos Sainz, losing battles. Right, he lost all of the battles, but he was battling Carlos Sainz. I think he only finished with the McLarens with the Ferraris and the Red Bulls in front of him. But yeah, I mean, he's battling up there. The sweetest thing to hear that is undoubtedly going to really get my hopes up and ruin my enjoyment of watching McLaren was Pierre Gasly on his post-race interview was like, yeah, McLaren was extremely fast this weekend. It's not really a good sign for us. Like if they keep this up, there's no way that we're going to be able to like stave them off, in the Constructors Championship. So I don't know, maybe if things keep going this direction, we'll have something good. And as far as the Chrome stuff goes, dude, you're a minority on Twitter because everybody's loving that Chrome stuff.
I have not seen that, actually, my friend. I've seen a lot of, what is this? It is a very mixed reaction.
I saw about 2 or 3 positive tweets about it, and then I haven't opened Twitter since, on purpose.
Yeah, probably a good move. I mean, I think I've seen a lot of like, oh, this is sick, and then I've seen a lot of like, what the fuck is going on? I'm on that side. But I would like to say, yeah, you're good at being McLaren. I would like to agree, saying that maybe a caveat to Lando. We're not going to talk about them in the top 5, so might as well talk about it now. The way, and well deserved, all the hype that he was doing, battling Carlos, battling Lewis back and forth for a number of laps, fantastic. And that entire time of them being like the McLaren upgrades, fantastic, all this great stuff. And every single time I would look down, 19th place, 18th place, Oscar Piastri. I was like, dude, yeah, that is really, really, really bad. Yeah.
He had a bad start. I think he caught some, what was it, Valtteri Bottas's front wing when like on that first turn. But yeah, I mean, it just keeps, dude, these rookies, I don't think any rookie is having like even a remotely positive season right now.
Yeah, dude. I don't know if it's with these cars or what. I mean, obviously, like looking in history, you've seen rookie drivers start off strong, but when is the last time you've seen a rookie driver do that well? I think Charles had a decent season, and that's pretty far away. But yeah, over the like Mick and Mazepin, both really bad seasons. Like, I don't know. It's been a minute since we've seen a decent rookie start.
Yeah, need to get back on that, Rooks. Welcome to the league.
Welcome to the league, buddy.
My bad is gonna be nerds. So if you know the old trope, if your friends all jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge? The correct answer to that question is yes, unless you're a narc. And instead of jumping off the bridge this past weekend, everybody was going outside and having all these track limitation warnings and penalties. I'll give you 2 guesses. Who are the 2 people who did not have any track limitation warnings?
Max?
No, he did. It was George Russell and
that doesn't surprise me.
So 2 of the biggest nerds Yeah, everyone was going off, and those were the only two. It just sucks that like when the whole group is doing something and you're the only two, goody two shoes. I thought that was a little embarrassing, and George was pretty proud of it, so that was even more embarrassing.
Yeah, it's like when the teacher, everyone, the whole class is like, we're not doing our homework. You can't get us all in trouble. And then there's two kids have been like, oh, actually, here's the homework.
George
You son of
Russell,
a bitch.
George Russell, 1000% has said, excuse me, Mrs. Whatever,
Teacher,
didn't collect the homework.
yeah, 100%. Yeah. And he would smirk when the other kids would like glare at him, being like, are you kidding me?
Right. My ugly is going to be his pre-race entertainment. Do you remember a couple weeks ago when LL Cool J was doing his thing? They had their driver walkout, and people, it was like trying to hype him up as if it were like in a basketball game almost. People were understandably a little weirded out, just like, hey, what? This isn't necessarily the sport. Like, I think the sentiment was like it's exciting enough having a standing start to a Grand Prix, like Formula One cars all lining up and starting while they're all stationary. And you don't need like a ton of just like weird pageantry to the race. And the FIA understood that and were like, hey, actually, watch this. We're going to have jetpacks come out. And there were people with jetpacks on the track. And one of them just beefed it, just completely fell. It looked like from like 10, 15 feet. The dude, and he rolled like it was a pretty long distance where he fell. And yeah, like what an interesting. We saw Oscar Piastri like saw it, and they got his reaction in real time where he did the Jim from The Office where he like looks, he's like, yee.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a bad omen, like getting into your car, into a Formula One car, and having in the back of your head like this track, even though it was in the air, has already just badly injured somebody. So
I wish they had like a like pause pre lap cleaning, and they're like, oh, like car crash or whatever, and like jetpack explosion, jetpack crash.
We have Formula One, we have that Sail GP. Now we have jetpack races,
dude. I mean that would be by far the coolest sport of all time.
I mean, that's gonna
that guy fell from, yeah, like you said, 10, 15 feet, and it looked like pretty bad. Could you imagine if the 30 feet in the air, just trying to go through hoops?
How like the F1 car, like essentially something not working on the car just results in like the F1 car getting told to stop and slow down. Yeah. The alternative is just like, it was like, your jetpack is failing. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna die. All right, good stuff. Good, bad, and ugly. Checked off the list. Let's get to our next sector, which is our gambling paddock. I'll get mine out of the way early again. I went 0 for 2. Fernando over Lewis and quali. Didn't work out. And then even number of cars to finish the race. Nico had a failure, and so 19 cars finished the race. As soon as Nico went out, so yeah, like 12, 13, as soon as he went out, I was like, I lost this, because it's either going to be, it's like 2 people are going to crash and retire themselves, or it was just one of those. So yeah, going from $294 down to $254, but we're not done yet, is what they say.
The hot streak ended after 1 week, baby.
Yeah, dude, I got excited that I turned a corner.
All right, I pushed, so I had Yuki over Valtteri. I think Yuki had a penalty, and then I think finished behind Valtteri anyway, so nothing there. And then Perez top 3 plus 100, 1 unit. So exactly what I came in at 566. I would like to throw in a proposition. We make our bets, and then at some point during the weekend, we could say, I want these updated odds, because I think at Saturday, I could have said upgraded odds for Perez in top 3, and that would have been pretty nice.
Would have been, yeah.
I was like, I lost both.
You were toast.
I was like, that one's 100% done. Got to pray for Yuki.
Yeah. All right. That's Gambling Paddock. Now let's move on to our race recap.
Before we get to our race recap, though, we do have a fantastic ad coming up. This part of the podcast is brought to you by Penalized Action Law and Associates, or Pal and Ass. At Pal and Ass, our goal is to take back what is yours before someone points a finger and says, give me that. It ain't yours no more, pal. You were penalized. We have represented the very best in fighting back with their penalties. When OJ was penalized for murder, we told him, how can you penalize someone for murder when you can't even put a glove on his hand? One of our more successful suits was when Johnny Depp was penalized for being a bad guy to Amber Heard. Not only did we stop his penalty, but we said, nay, the penalty is on you, Amber. And she then was penalized. With all that being said, we are here to tell you that our services are currently shut down as we are dealing with the biggest penalty case in human history. The entire F1 paddock has come to us to stop the dozens of penalties dropped to them in Austria. Knowing the FIA, the idiotic decisions they make, and the lack of accountability they give themselves, we are in for a battle. So please pick up the phone and then put it right back down because we don't want your business. Penalized Action Law Associates. We got your ass, pal.
Nice. Thank you, Pal and Ass.
Pal and Ass, the best law firm there is. Let's get down to our race recap. Starting off with our pre-race qualifying session. So there's just a bunch of stuff on these sprint race weekends. I'm just going to kind of throw them all out there. Actual quali, Charles missed out by quali by just a few hundredths of a second. That was the first time and Carlos just right behind him as well. First time being like, wow, this is like Ferrari's actually kind of back in the mix of things. Unfortunately, just barely missed out, but it was great to see. I think even Charles was like, I'm never going to be happy. Even if we're close to second, I want to be first. Love that mentality. As Ian said, there was 43 lap times deleted and pre-race activities. So just like, not only was it just Sunday, not only was it a windy Sunday, it must have been a just super, super windy, crazy weekend for them, because it was a consistent issue that we saw all weekend and no one was willing to make adjustments. Notable performances in the sprint shootout. So the sprint qualifying, Lewis out in Q1, George out in Q2. Mercedes just had a pretty bad weekend in general. Car just wasn't there that we've seen the past couple of weeks. And then Nico Hülkenberg, again, just did incredible in that Haas. He placed fourth in the sprint quali. We will not talk about Haas as well. As shockingly enough, they're not in our top five, but that Haas, specifically Nico, has shown incredible pace. Obviously, it seems like he goes balls out like the first 10 laps, and like the car just can't keep up with that, and then he just drops off dramatically. So he has like a pretty cool window, especially he's like a great quality driver in that car. In the race, that car just cannot consistently keep up with that type of pace that he has, or that it has. It's just very, short-sighted, I guess. Something that probably will not fix. And then notable performances in the Grand Prix qualifying. Perez out in Q2 again because of 3 deleted laps. George Russell out in Q2 again. Lando Norris qualifying P4. And then, as we said, Charles just barely missing out for 48 hundredths of a second. And then back to the sprint race. I think the most intriguing thing there was Checo and Max really going at it within the first couple laps. Kind of both sides. We saw, Perez really, box him out in turn one. And then we saw like kind of Max fighting back a little bit. They had some words after the race, but knowing them being the same drivers or on the same team, they were just like, we got it past it, whatever. But there was definitely some on the radios like, what is he doing? Oh, no, what is he doing? So that was entertaining. Always loved kind of that inner team rivalry going on. So that kind of wraps up what we had for our pre-race qualifying sessions.
Nice. All right. Well, let's move on to our P5 and the constructors then. Walking away from the weekend with 3 whole points. Alpine, 47 points total for the season in the Constructors' Championship, excuse me. Esteban Ocon starting P12, making it down to P14. Pierre Gasly starting P9 and going down 1 spot to P10. These cars did not look as fast as they normally have, right? In the last several rounds, they were genuinely concerning where it was just like, oh, Esteban's on the podium. They're just consistently in that almost 6 to 8, with some, room for error range. But they didn't seem that fast, not in quali, not in the sprint, and definitely not in the race. So biggest thing with Alpine, I think, the only main talking point is Ocon just getting absolutely dominated by track limits. Everybody was getting at least a warning, for the most part. Ocon got, I think it was 2 5-second penalties and 2 10-second penalties. So totaling 30 seconds, which is pretty diabolical, honestly, from the FIA. At some point, it's that one, stop, he's already dead. Like he finished P12. You don't have to like
Yeah,
really.
he wasn't even in the points. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a dickhead move to be like, well, we want to let him know that he was way outside of the lines. Yeah, other than that, McLaren closed the gap by 9 points this weekend, so they're only 18 points ahead of McLaren. I've really changed my tune, I think, because Lando looks quick. If Oscar can get on his horse a little bit and not make Lando carry the McLaren team for the second year in a row, I think there's a chance. Like I think there's more of a chance than there was earlier. And that's got me fired up.
I would love to have like a Q 3-4 races ago when I said McLaren is in a good spot. It will be fine. I could see them coming back, and you're like, no, you're crazy. Why you say that? Why are you so mean? I would love that video just to come loop in right now, because I feel like that is something that I called.
Listen, I'm not like a near. I'm a near future guy and a near past guy. So I make snap decisions based off of like what has just happened, and I stick with them. Okay.
Yeah. Hence the Gamely corner.
Yeah, dude.
All right. The only two things I have to say: that awesome job to find a way to bring in McLaren in this discussion, not in the top five. Good job for there. And then, yeah, Ocon, I kind of liked it. I feel like it's smart of the FIA being like, we need a scapegoat. We need to show, if you guys do this in other races, we are not afraid to penalize you like unlimited amount of time. So I think that it was good, because it could have caused a lot of stirrup if he finished in the points, or even like a 6 where 30 points gets him out. So it kind of lined up well, but I do like the FI being like, if you do this, you're fucked. If you keep doing this, he's a very hard-hitted driver. Everyone says it, gets his elbows out. And they're just, I bet he was driving. They're like, another one. He's like, they're not going to get me again. And he just kept doing it. And then it kind of worked out like that. So I do like them just being like, this guy's our guy that we're going to pick on. If he doesn't change things, we're going to keep doing it. Don't do it. Don't pull an Ocon. So my 2 points there. Moving on to Ferrari, our P4 team, 32 points on the weekend, second most behind, obviously, Red Bull. Carlos Sainz P3 to P6 because of his penalties. Charles Leclerc P2 to P2. So first time Ferrari's been on the podium since April in Baku, so end of April. So it has been a couple months since we've seen them up there. Very relieving, and it did feel like a couple months for me. Obviously, like the biggest drama was kind of beginning of the race. Sainz and Leclerc were just, right behind each other. Sainz was right behind Leclerc. And plenty of time Sainz saying, I have the pace, like, can I pass? And basically they said, stick to the strategy. Nope, no fighting. Let's keep it going. He came out saying, I'm playing the team game, not getting rewarded. Leaves me with a sour feeling. I initially kind of agreed with that, because I was like, hey, this car looks fantastic. We were right behind Red Bull in qualifying. This seems like he's driving a little quicker. Let's see what he can do to Max. Kind of listening on Fred, his responses after the race was saying like, look, these cars are going to be quicker with DRS. So when, if we were going to let Sainz pass 2 laps later, Leclerc would have been the same thing, saying, hey, let me pass, I'm quicker. It would have been nice to see that actually happen and be like, oh, he was right, other than just him say that. Because I am curious if that would have been the case, or if it was kind of this, Sainz did have the pace to actually make a push and compete. I always like to see something happen like that. So I did agree with that, but I thought that was an interesting aspect, being like, we're going to run into this, and it's just going to then slow us if we're battling or going back and forth. It's just going to slow us down in the long run. Other than that, Charles obviously was just over 5 seconds behind Max to finish. Obviously, Max pit against all of Red Bull's like, do not do this. He's like, I want to pit. I want to get fastest lap. They're like, please don't. He's like, I'm going to do it. So it would have been 28 seconds, something like that, 29 seconds. So it looks a lot closer than we thought. But it was cool to see a Ferrari 5 seconds. I like to see the results. That's it. I don't want to see how you got there. It was around 5 seconds behind Max. So fantastic there. And then, yeah, obviously Sainz, the penalized, like we said, P6, he was in P4. It would have been a fantastic, even better weekend, 32 points. It would have been a P2 to P4, something we're used to seeing last year. P2 to P6, just unfortunate with the penalties, and just being just just in front of these guys enough to have dropped 2 points, 2 places because of 5 seconds.
Yeah. All right. Now let's move into P3. Our third place in the Constructors' Championship, Aston Martin, 175 points total after dragging home 20 points this weekend. Fernando Alonso starting P7, making it up to P5, and Lance Stroll P6 to P9. Nice. Tough weekend for the team, I think. Still closed the gap to Mercedes by 3 points, but that's because Mercedes had a really, really tough weekend. I think just because of the pressure that the Ferraris are putting on them now. It was just overall harder to make stuff happen, especially in a car that didn't seem to fit the track really well. Like Fernando was saying, this is, the setup's all wrong. Like it's, we don't feel quick. We feel like a lot slower. And Lance, on the other hand, was just being Lance Stroll. So, yeah, dude, Lance, I looked up, just kind of like past performance, just because, we talk about it. I feel like almost every time, like, oh, is Daddy Stroll going to pull the plug, whatever. Lance in the last 6 races has been P7, DNF, P6, P9, P9. So the last 5 races, sorry. 24 points since Baku, since April. He's P8 in the Drivers' Championship right now with a 28-point gap to George in P7. I didn't know it was 28 points, and that's just to get into P7 with arguably what's been, I don't even know if it's that arguable, like the second fastest car on the grid right now. So, or at least like for the majority of the season. So I think just another weekend to forget for Lance. He keeps getting spicier and spicier on these post-race interviews, and you can tell he's just like annoyed with himself. Probably a little bit of him is annoyed with how well his teammates doing, just like, I'm that much better than him. But yeah, as it stands right now, 3 points behind Mercedes. And that's like, that's striking distance, even more so than this past weekend was striking distance. So just takes one good weekend and these guys will be in P2. But yeah, overall, it just continues to be a rainy day for Lance Stroll.
Yeah, I think this was Saturday during the sprint quali, I'm pretty sure, where they were running, I think, 4 and 5. And Lance goes, hey, tell Fernando to stop fighting for each other. We got good points. Basically being like, please stop. Please back off. Let me just get fourth. So I thought that was funny. Did not hear Fernando if they passed along the message or if they were just like, no, dude, he's going to fucking pass you because he's faster than you. But I did love to be like, hey, this is my dad's team. I need you to cool it. I'm in front of you right now and I need this to fucking be the same. So don't. So fantastic. Yeah, I think he's just getting a little desperate for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton, P5 to P8. George Russell, P11 to P7. So, like we said, not the best weekend, even going into the race. George, not a great qualifying again. Lewis, P5. So, not fantastic that we've been seeing in the past month or so. Something that we have not seen probably as much either because of, their pretty strong performances is seeing both Mercedes or seeing Lewis drop back, going from P5 to P8. Usually we've seen them kind of ticking up on the grid a little bit. So yeah, it just shows that when you're battling, and I know McLaren has had a strong upgrade, but he was battling. I think that was probably his biggest battle on Sunday was back and forth with Lando. So when you see that, it kind of puts into perspective a little bit when they're like, hey, we want to be P2. They are currently obviously P2. But when you're battling a McLaren, it seems like a little bit of drop in expectations. And shockingly enough, as bad as Ferrari has been, they are 24 points away from second place. So I thought that would have been a lot bigger gap between the two. 21 points away from Aston Martin. So Aston only 3 points behind. So I mean, I think this is going to be a very, very fun battle for second if, albeit Ferrari can actually show that they can be consistent like this that we've seen the past few weekends and over the past 2 to 3 years. There's no promises with that. Hamilton was very frustrated. I think this is by far the person we heard the most on the radio. Every single time after he got his 5-second penalty, he was like, Perez, he's going over this time. Is he getting docked? Is he getting penalized? Every single person he talked about was just him being the ultimate rat, being like someone else has to get penalized. And then Toto finally was like, we know the car is shit. Just drive. And I was a very stern, and I think Lewis got the memo being like, hey, we know we'll let people know if people are, but just drive the car. Cause it was getting a little obnoxious, I would say. As a Lewis fan, we get it. It's frustrating. You got a point. You penalized. Everyone is getting penalized. It's fine.
Let me add on to that, going back to Lando, because I'm going to wedge as much McLaren talk as I can into an episode where we can't talk about them. He was on the post-race show talking to Julian Palmer, and he was like, every single time Lewis went off, my team was telling me to like let them know. And I was like, I can't talk that much because he's going off so much. He was like 5 times in a lap. Yeah. He was like, that's 5-second penalty, like in and of itself. You're just like ripping into Lewis. That was the post-race show. Then they go in the media pen afterward, and you could tell Lando was like, kind of like the oh shit, dad's coming home kind of deal, where it's like, he's gonna see this. He's gonna know shit about them. Like the prospect of Lando and Lewis on the same team at McLaren at some point. I feel like it's kind of like rumor mill, like as a possibility, but I don't know. I feel like after that alone, Lewis would be like, nah, this guy's a narc.
Well, he did. I just saw like some recent things, I think coming into this British Grand Prix, where he's been like, Lewis has just helped me out so much in my career, has been like the ultimate team guy. Like I can't thank him enough. So he definitely was like, hey, I messed up a little bit. I'm going to just say how amazing this dude is.
And it fixes it. So
dude, he's just covering his tracks. He'd be like, hey, like, let's get some more articles about the good things I'm saying about Lewis, and let's get this away.
Yeah. Anyway, funny to see that. And finally, to wrap up our race recap, let's talk about our P1. They've been P1 since the beginning of the season. They're not going anywhere. 56 points from this weekend. 377 points on the season. Max Verstappen, P1 to P1. Sergio Perez, P15 to P3. So way to make up a lot of points there. This was, I think I saw it was like 3 points away from the most possible points that someone can get from a sprint weekend, or like a team can get from a sprint weekend. So that's ridiculous, but not super unexpected, I'd say. Great recovery drive from Checo, but I don't know. I think this is a problem. Checo not being a consistent Q3 of like appearance guy. This seems like pretty unacceptable to the team, especially with how high of the standards that Red Bull has. So like you said it earlier, is Danny Rick testing in the Red Bull this weekend?
I think it's the AlphaTauri, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Yeah. It just feels like some changes are coming. Yeah.
I would say that a couple, I guess, devil advocates here. I think all 3 of his that got deleted were basically like right behind Max when it came to actual times. Yeah. So it's not like he was like couldn't find a good time. It was just obviously, he was like everyone else running into this. He just ran into it a little bit more and was a little less careful when just trying to get 1 down. And 2, I know Yuki was having like a decent run for a couple of weeks, but I mean, to just risk being like, hey, Danny's been out. He's been driving pretty poorly the last couple of years, and then has been out a year. You can't just put all your money on him to be a good second driver. And Yuki has not really been showing that consistency either. That's the thing where I'm like, hey, I wonder if they're like, hey, we need we need to know or have pretty good confidence that whoever's going to replace him is going to be pretty decent. And I don't know if there's anyone, at least outside of this team, they're going to have to bring in someone third party if they actually want that assurance.
Bring in Nikita.
He's got to figure it out, dude.
Dude, slam that car against the wall within 6 seconds of being like. Anyway, what else we got here? Oh, I saw this too. Max is now 51 points ahead of Mercedes as a team.
Officially, doubled. They're over double the second place team points.
Yep. Yeah. That's like, man, that's such a gut punch. Nine races into the season. And it's like, like 10, more than 10 to go. That sucks.
I mean, I would love to see what the odds were. It'd be like who finishes who finishes second place, Max or the rest of the field.
Yeah.
I think Max would be the favorite.
I think you would too. Be like Tiger Woods back in the day, where he was like favored against
the entire field. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, shoot, if you're bringing in, Ferrari's bringing in 30 points. He only beat Ferrari, or he beat everyone but Ferrari this weekend.
It's true.
And his points on. Yeah. Actually, because he got 8 points. I think he beat Ferrari. Never mind.
I think he did beat Ferrari this weekend.
Yeah, never mind. He beat everyone. So sick. All right. That does it for our race recap. And finishing off our last sector of the podcast, our race predictions recap.
Yeah.
I will start her off with mine. I hit 2 this weekend after going last weekend with a big fat 0. Pole max. How many cars don't finish? 1.
Nice. I didn't hit anything. So as it stands right now, Marco is beating me 17-18. 17-8.
18. Whoa, dude.
Hey,
What's
dude.
going on?
I got a 10 point bonus for being a good dad.
for needing it.
Yeah.
Now we got a race in our hands.
All right. So there's the race predictions recap. Great weekend for Austria. I think I smell a better one coming up in Britain this coming weekend here. I mean, man, we got British drivers on the grid, a couple home races for these guys. I think I'm more excited about this one than the Austria one, but who knows? Silverstone always brings the chaos, so bring it out.
Silverstone.
All right, everybody. Appreciate y'all for listening. See you, assholes.
The asshole.
Hey, thought you could leave without saying goodbye.
I used to say I lived my life a quarter mile at a time. And I think that's why we were brothers. Because you did too.